One of the attractive things about the insurance world is you have the renewal. So you're like building an annuity almost, right, for yourself.
And the other thing is being there during the worst times in people's lives. My first death claim, I'm hugging this lady's neck, and she looked in my eyes. I just said, "Your husband's a hero. He took care of you guys, and when you're ready, you give me a call." And 2 weeks later, she called me.
I was working at Countrywide. One of the things I loved was their tool they used for their guidelines. It just worked really well with how my brain operates as far as how they had it structured, how you could search things, how it read. And I would just have random thoughts like, I wonder if you can do this on a VA loan.
You need to find a niche.
The riches are in the niches. Today we have one of my neighbors and a veteran here joining us today, Mark Milotello, Army National Guard vet, and he's in the insurance world. That's something that all of us have and have a need for is insurance. So I'm super excited to have you here, Mark, and get a chance to catch up and talk shop a little bit. So
right on.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you guys will notice a little bit of an accent probably. Mark is from Louisiana. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, just born and raised in Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, North Louisiana. This is more of a redneck accent, than probably what you would think of a Louisiana Cajun accent. But about halfway up the state in Alexandria, you start to see that. And I was just born and raised, great place to live. And I got the call to come to San Diego. And I'm like, beaches, sunny weather, or cotton fields and mosquitoes. Yeah, I'm there. So
not a hard decision, right?
It's been an adventure coming out here, but it's great place to live, great people. I realize there's great people everywhere. And at first I was a little nervous, going that far away, but there's great people everywhere.
Yeah, you got that California stigma, right?
Yeah.
Which
I talk a little faster now. That's the only problem. I don't want to tell a story, but when I got here, apparently I was talking a little slower than this. So,
well, everyone's in a rush here. I noticed, just in my business, because I lend in multiple states, and so it's interesting seeing the dynamic of how they move through the process of buying a house, the title companies and escrow and everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
And in California, it's a race to the finish.
I know.
In some states, you go to the South sometimes, or like Alaska or Hawaii, if it closes sometime, we're cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's so different.
we had closing attorneys. And what I love about that from the insurance perspective is I knew 2 weeks out closing was coming. I wasn't hopping on a plane, or going on vacation. And here it's like, we know the day of. I need this insurance binder. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm boarding a plane,
Right.
So, I kind of like the slower pace a little bit in that regard.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. So you've been in insurance a long time.
Yep, 31 years.
So tell us, how did you get into insurance? What was it just fall into it on accident, or what happened?
No, I'm just crazy, I guess. My father was an insurance agent. He did life insurance, Medicare supplements, and I grew up in his office, back in the day of door knocking and licking envelopes, and, I had 12 cuts on my tongue, because I guess I wasn't smart enough to get a sponge or it was slower. And we did telemarketing, at 16 to get that kind of rejection. I didn't realize, it was actually teaching me something, but it sure didn't, I hated insurance. I'm like, I'm going into the military, getting into college, going into pre-law. And then a couple years into college, I got a job offer from someone who knew my family. I switched my insurance to a carrier, and the manager said, called me in for an interview, and said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I realized I was pretty good at it. All those things that I had learned paid off, and I didn't realize what I had learned through being raised in that office. And so got licensed at 18.
Wow.
And yeah. But I would sell 3 policies, make a couple $1,000s, and I was off for 3 months. So, and the day after I joined, after I got to basic training, the Gulf War started. And that was tough, at an 18-year-old joining the military mainly for college.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm going to war was a wake up moment, and it was tough. It was tough emotionally. It was, I'm just honored to be in the company of those that did fight for our country, because I went through a little bit of that that process of thinking you're going to war.
Right.
Not that I did, but I just got so much respect, especially people nowadays. I mean, if you sign up, you're probably going to see something.
Absolutely.
And so I just got so much respect for our armed forces, and I'm just happy to be in the company of those. And looking back, it taught me so much. At 18, I was living on my own in high school, and you can imagine how that was.
Yeah.
My mom moved to East Texas, and it was my senior year, and I'm like, I'm not going. So I just moved out with a couple friends, and I needed some growing up, and the military gave that to me. It gave me, it showed me that it's okay to clean your room, and here's how you do it. It makes you feel, kind of clean,
Yeah.
and it taught me responsibility, friendship, getting out of drinking and things like that for a living. It just really taught me some things that I think helped me throughout my entire career in life.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. And so many people say this similar things, especially when you're young, you're 18, and it provides a lot of that foundation.
Yeah,
Right. That's
it did.
important for life. What was your job?
I really think everybody, I mean, I know this is not popular, but I think everyone should do a few years in the military. I just really think it's.
I agree. I mean, if I could wave a magic wand, I would say, hey, when you turn 18, you got a minimum 2-year commitment.
I know.
Go.
I know.
That's just it.
It's
And
for
you
their
can go
good.
longer if you want, but at 2 years, you can.
That'd solve a lot
you
of
can
problems
jump
our
out.
country has.
I agree. Yeah. I would fix so much. I think the love for this country is one thing that it would change dynamically
Absolutely.
and would eliminate a lot of the rift that we have sociologically and politically and all that stuff. But we don't have that magic wand. So hopefully someone is listening and maybe something cool will happen one day. I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it, but
I do too.
It was good for me.
Yeah, it was good. What was your job in the military? What'd you do?
Well, I 62 Bravo is an engineer battalion.
Okay.
And so, all my friends were building neat things like, frame construction and concrete walls and all that. And I was under a truck getting all greasy, I like to think I serviced the vehicles that saved your life.
There you go.
That's the way I look at it. No, I would come home stinky and greasy and had to have extra BDUs. And it was, I took it from the sign-on bonus. I'm like, okay, I'll be a 62B, and it was kind of fun, but I have zero mechanic skills. I was level 1. That's like they let me change parts,
Right.
But I did visit Ruston. It was like level 3, whatever they called it back then, and those cats were breaking down engines, and I was like, man, I should have joined Ruston, drove about 20 extra minutes, and I might have learned something. But yeah, they only let me change parts. Those big tires, they made us put them in cages, and they were watching us even on that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's cool though is like every job in the military is important, right? Because
Yes.
they're all just a piece of, you may not be the Hollywood version of what we see in the military, right? But even the line cook, right? Like it's a critically important position, right?
Yes.
Those vehicles, they got to operate. They got to be serviced and
right.
maintained and everything else, right? So every job is important, even though you might not be slaying bad guys.
Didn't
but,
feel like it,
yeah.
but I know it. I mean, I was just talking to some of your staff here, and they were telling me some of your guests that, from the Pentagon and all these things. I'm like, man, mine's not that cool, but yeah, they're all important.
Yeah. Well, my service wasn't as cool either, but it's, we served our country, and we, provided a function that was necessary. So,
Well, what was cool is just the things that we got to do. I went to Jordan, built a pop-up training ground, and did some neat things, and went down to in South Louisiana and worked on some neat projects, and got to ride in a Huey back home, and that was
That's fun.
just some neat experiences that I never would have had.
totally.
So we actually, that's when the Hummers came out, Project X and Beauregard, Alexandria, and we were assembling the Hummers, and of course, at age 19 or 20, getting to test ride a newly assembled Hummer and trying to break it or get it stuck, that was pretty fun. It was
Yeah.
pretty fun.
Yeah, you don't get to do that on purpose with your dad's SUV, right?
No, those things were beast.
Yeah, those are cool. So, you've been in insurance for a while. You have your own brokerage now, American National,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have all my policies. But tell
Thank you.
us a little bit about just the insurance world and kind of, what it takes for someone who is interested in that field, right? Especially someone who might be looking to transition out of the military or something. But what does it take to make it in insurance? And, what was one of the appeals for you, or when you finally got like the aha and you really got after it? What kind of things come to mind?
Oh, a lot. That's a big question. One thing I remember my dad saying, he was one of the top agents in the world at the time with combined insurance. And I remember him telling me, if you stick with something long enough, if you just stick with it and don't jump around, you'll be successful. And, that was maybe the attitude looking back. I didn't think I had it, but maybe I did, that, I just kept at it, because years and years I wanted to quit. And I'm thinking I can do anything else. And, so yeah, it was tough to learn the things I needed to do to succeed. After that position that I had during college, 4 years later, I started my own agency. And without that, learning, I may have not known. So I look at that as a great learning experience, worked with some great people with a great company. And when I started my own, though, it was just something different about working for yourself. I mean, it's like, I don't care if I'm taking out the garbage, paying the bills, marketing, selling it. It's all for yourself. And so that was one of the greatest things that I've learned, a sense of pride of really being a business owner. And it'd be hard to go back working on the clock. I mean, I guess they could pay me enough that I would, but being self-employed and not missing things in your family, now you got to pay the price sometimes, right? You know how that is. But I love veterans. I think I've moved into a position over the past 14 years of training and developing and building an agency. Got 24 agents across the state, and recruit them, train them, mentor them, and I think it's a wonderful. First of all, it's a wonderful career. I mean, it has absolutely been a blessing to travel the world, make a lot of money, build out absolute wonderful relationships that are lifelong. But to take my heart is for the new agent. I wrote a book, Prepare to Launch. It's, I think, the only book of its kind in our industry. Our industry is really a black hole, believe it or not. There's not a lot, there's 2 million hits if you Google something, but where do you go?
Sure.
Not a lot of companies share what they spend millions and millions of dollars, so there's not a lot of sharing in our industry. And that's what I set out to change. I built several training sites, and the book, I think I'm very proud of it. It's helping new agents understand what it takes to succeed. But to answer your question specifically, it takes a plan. It takes, just like in the military, you got to have a plan. You got to try to do the things to take each step and master each step. And you have to go out there and just, you can't do it from inside a room. You got to go out and build relationships. Leads are a difficult thing in this day and time, I think, in every industry.
Sure, yeah.
They're more expensive. The internet gold rush is over. So, it's been decades since that has been really a prime source. So, and the other thing, Jason, is, we've got so many places to go. We don't know where to go. Back then, it's like pick up the phone book.
Right.
Back then, it's like knock a door. Pick up the phone, call somebody. Now we've got thousands of friends on social media. We've got so many sites, so many platforms, so many organizations like GroupMe, so many things, meet up. I mean, everything you can get involved with something you have an affinity to, right?
Right.
That people don't know where to go. So it's terrible that we have so many places for people to build a business, whether it be lending or real estate, and sometimes they don't know where to start. So I think it requires a plan. Maybe good mentorship is good.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
I would love to take, a veteran especially if they're close to retirement in their 40s or 50s, to start a second career, because it's just been a wonderful career for me, and I want to help them not make the mistakes I made and get off to a fast start. So I'm more in a coaching role now, but I do have a producing agency of 20+ agents.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, because, in my industry is similar in the sense that, you eat what you kill, right? It's a commission only environment. And where do you start? Who do you call? Where do you go? How do you meet the people? And like you said, there's so much, there's so many places where you can like point to, but which one do you start at the beginning, right? So I think, having that guidance in that direction of like, here's how you get it going.
Well, I built a software platform. It's a digital marketing tool to say thank you to the lending and real estate industry. But the premise of it is, I think, what answers your question, and it's the old Zig Ziglar quote: "Help enough other people get what they want, and you get what you want."
Yeah.
And so that's the entire premise I built this on, and it's kind of gone viral, I guess you could use that term. And it's in 4 major insurance companies, and it's a software platform. Because me as an insurance agent, I got to write 10, 20, 30 deals a month, right? I mean, we build the renewals, which is a beautiful thing. Kind of helps us, be a little recession-proof. Like you said,
Yeah.
people have to have insurance, and that's always been a good thing that I don't think I valued early on. And you build these relationships and these clients that really bring some stability later on that I think is a true blessing. And so I've always wanted to say thank you to the people who helped me become successful, namely a handful of loan officers and maybe 20, 30 real estate agents. I mean, it's just that. If you build solid relationships with those people, they can support your entire career, and you need to support them back in a lot of ways, not just a Starbucks card or coffee and donuts. I mean, and so my idea was to come up with a way to say thank you, and maybe that with some digital marketing tools that help maybe drive people to them.
Yeah.
And, it's tough in this world because there's so many things, but just that they know you care enough is important, but it goes so much deeper than that, Jason. I mean, it's just building relationships.
Totally. Well, and I think that that software thing that you've developed is a really important piece because, being in familial industries, right? We work together on all our transactions. You always got to have insurance for a house, right? So the loan officer and the realtor always have a need for that insurance relationship. But oftentimes, and I know in my career until you and I got connected, I never had an insurance person, not that they didn't have the best of intentions to help me with my business or whatever, but there was never any value provided from the insurance side to the lender side. There was nothing of value. And a lot of them will say, well, I'll do a great job with your client and I'll be quick and I'll be fast. And that's good, but that's kind of like the baseline. That's where you start, right? So everyone needs to be at that level.
That's right.
So it's like, what else do you bring to the table? And I'm not saying like, let me look at your Rolodex and start picking out names to refinance, but how can you help build the business? It's kind of the same thing goes like from my side to realtors too, right? And a lot of that becomes a one-way street. And so in order to create that value, you have to figure out or come up with some sort of value add to them, to their business. And it may not be the home run swing. It might just move the needle a little bit, but it's that little bit compared to zero works.
Yeah.
That's something.
Well, it just reminded me of the things that I did. When I got your policies back, your home, your auto, your life, your business, whatever, I would build a delivery kit, a nice portfolio. Nothing special, a few bucks. But in there, I would put like your flyer, and I would put back when I was in personal production, and I teach that to my team to build these connections and say, hey, here, because a lot of times when someone moves to town and they're introduced to you through whatever means, a neighbor or a realtor or whoever, they may not have a loan officer. They may not have a banker. They may not have an attorney. I sure didn't when I moved here.
Yeah.
And so, my first thing is here's the people I trust. Here's the people that, I do my business with. And I think, again, it's not earth-shattering, but it is little things like that you can put in front of your clients to let them know that, call me. And at the height of my career in production, my clients will call me and ask for plumbers. It was so awesome to hear, Mark, who do you know in plumbing? Who do you know in this? And who do you know in that? And that's how the trust grows, and then that way you can make those recommendations. But yeah, I've always been on the lookout for any way to add value to my referral partners, because we write a big number. It's not like we make a lot on one deal.
Yeah, you got to write a lot of deals.
That's right.
So yeah, you need lots of loan officers and realtors and everybody referring you business.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's important on so many levels. But tell me a little bit about, you've taken this, you've written a book, you've taken the software, right? And you're introducing this or selling it, I guess, to other big insurance companies. So it's moved from more than just selling policies, right? Like you're at a different level of the game right now, which I think is a cool dynamic to highlight, right?
Yeah.
because I think sometimes so often we get stuck when we're in production in that production kind of like tunnel vision that there's nothing else outside of it. But there is, not necessarily that what you're doing is the natural career progression for people, but I think it's cool to illustrate, like, here's an example of something that could totally happen that originally just started as selling policies. Right. And then the next step, and you grew.
Well, it's, I remember when I moved to San Diego is when it started, because, in Louisiana, we're like 10 years behind fashion and technology. Sorry, Louisiana. But I love you. But when I moved here, so many people are innovative in technology. My best friend I first met was in an office next to me, was an ex-dirt bike rider, pro, but he was in technology too. And it just inspired me. I love technology. I don't think we should run from it in any field. You better jump in and learn it. And everything that comes out, it's like, how can we bend that to our wheel in sales?
Yeah.
And like Uber, you could take 10 $2 Uber rides and meet, some people that have a family at home that need life insurance, right? So, it's just looking at those in those ways. But it really inspired me to, after 30 years of doing this, I Googled life insurance training, and dog training in San Diego came up. So I realized about a decade ago that there is just a blind spot. I could not believe that that's the way it is. And I said, this is a good place to take what I built, what I did, and I was a good process guy, so I processed it. And then, it was at once an Excel version. And then, my buddy comes in and says, no, we need to build a software. So for long, I've got 3 software companies, all centered around helping insurance agents get off the ground, start, present to clients, have better discussions regarding life insurance and things like that. And it just kept growing and growing. And it's a lot of fun. It's exciting.
That's really cool. It's really exciting. And it's interesting that you found dog training when you're doing that Google search, right? Because I would think that you'd have a full page of, training here, training there, or some of the licensing companies or whatever would have like all this training. But
no, you do. All you find is page and page and page of licensing, but there's no training on how to sell it. It's just product training to pass your test. That's the issue.
Yeah. It's almost the same. I mean, there are some different training outlets now, but in my industry as well, same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and it's interesting because I'll talk to people who are like, yeah, I just got my mortgage license. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, you don't know. The licensing doesn't tell you what a conventional loan is.
Right.
It just tells you the law around it. So, you're compliant with the law, but you don't know a single thing about a mortgage yet, or a credit report, or all these things, right? So there is a training gap there in both industries. There's a lot of gap there.
Well, I've listened to a lot of your podcasts. I mean, I just don't know if I know anybody that knows what. I'm sure there are, but so how did you get there? I mean, how did you get to where you are now? I'm sorry, this is your podcast, but
no, I mean,
it interests me.
It's a good question. I think similar to you, just finding good mentorship, and just being a good student of it. I remember like pre-crash days, I was working at Countrywide, and one of the things I loved was their tool they used for their guidelines, their loan product guidelines. For whatever reason, it just worked really well with how my brain operates as far as how they had it structured, how you could search things, how it read, all that stuff. And I was able to sift through there, and I would just have random thoughts like, I wonder if you can do this on a VA loan or whatever. And so I just start reading. And for whatever reason, like the way they had, and I've been at other lending companies before and after then, and none of them had it like set up in a way that it really like clicked in my brain. So I would just find myself sometimes wasting too much time when I should have been on the phone or something. But like just reading through this stuff and learning. And I think that was a period where I really started gobbling up a lot of product knowledge was there. And, kind of real life and on the job training. I mean, you run into situations and you got to figure it out. And
you picked an awesome niche. And I think that's another key that I may have left out is you need to find a niche.
Yeah.
Where's your niche in marketing? But you've got a niche and you've done quite well in that. And
yeah, thank you. It's interesting. So I had the very first mortgage company I worked at was a mortgage broker shop in Reno. And it was me and a bunch of my fraternity brothers, and it kind of happened on accident. But we ended up turning into a pretty good office. We were one of the better offices in our company. And the CEO, he was from Las Vegas, so he'd fly up periodically to meet with us and visit us and take us to lunch and stuff. And but he was young. I mean, at the time I was 22, and he was maybe in his mid 30s at the time, and he had a mortgage company. He had several branches, and he was, the image of success, right? And I was like, he'd come in and talk with us, and I remember asking him one day, I'm like, how did you get? I mean, you're not very old, so how did you get to the point where you own a mortgage company? You have several branches, you got a bunch of people working for you, like, you got exotic cars and houses. Like, obviously life is treating you pretty well. Like, how did you get there? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, the riches are in the niches.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, prior to the 2000s, he's like, I was the only dude in Vegas that was talking about subprime loans. And I know that's, a terrible word these days, but this is the real history. And so he's like, I would go to all the realtor shops, and then I just started going to the loan offices too. And he's like, I just picked subprime. He's like, no one was talking about it. It wasn't a big thing. He's like, so I was the only game in town. So whenever anybody had that challenged borrower or the low credit score or whatever the situation was, I was the guy.
Which no one else wanted to touch, but he got good at.
He got good at it. And he's like, I was known as the guy
Yeah.
in town, and everybody started using me. And eventually I got successful enough. I built a team, and then I was like, well, shoot, I could run a company at this point. And then that's when it took off.
Nice.
So it's always something that's resonated with me, that the riches are in the niches. And as I watch other people in their various industries, a lot, not all, but a lot of the ones who have done really well have really niched themselves into a segment of that industry.
Yeah, then it expands out from there. Obviously, you can do anything, but
Right.
no, I mean it's been great, working with you. I think, but I love listening to your podcast. A lot of interesting people, but a lot of great, information. And like I didn't know half of that. So
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. The podcast has been great, right? It's really a neat way to stay connected to the military. I haven't been out for so long now, and kind of a way to give back too. I mean, we talk about all sorts of different subjects, but I think one of the more overreaching topics that we talk about is that transition into the civilian world. Eventually, everyone's going to end up in the civilian world. Where maybe they don't work, maybe they just retire and do nothing. But for the lion's share, they're going to end up doing something on the civilian side for work.
yeah,
And so we talk about that in a lot of different industries and things. And I don't think we've had anybody talk about insurance before. So this is neat because it's a great industry.
yeah.
What are some things, if you were to give some advice to someone who's maybe looking down the road a little bit about I'm thinking about getting out of this military thing and doing something else, and maybe insurance comes to mind or maybe not, but what's some advice you might give somebody to kind of start getting a little bit prepared for, like, you're venturing into this commissioned only environment, and I know there's probably some companies that help stabilize you for a period of time, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, walk them through some tips you might give somebody who's thinking about that.
Well, if someone was interviewing, I would say there's a few things you need to look for. I mean, first of all, you should try insurance because it's just a wonderful career. I've already said that. But number one, our industry has in the past some black eyes, no doubt, and maybe still today, but maybe not as much as it used to be for maybe a lot of people overpromising. And so number one, no matter where you go, one of my biggest recommendations would be to make sure they're vested in your success. They're not just recruiting to fill a number. Because, if it's commissioned only, and yes, most companies do help now, unlike back when I started for the most part, you got to find someone that's vested and not just trying to fill a recruiting number, and that's hard to find. I mean, it's hard to – so you need to take your time and really go interview several places and see the difference, because some organizations, they're just trying to hire the masses and fire their behinds,
Right.
And I don't mean fire them in the sense, I mean you fire yourself when you don't produce enough, right?
Yep.
And in some degree, that's a marketing for the managers. I mean, think about it. If I hire 40 people this month and they write all their family and friends and they got nowhere to go, who wins? I win.
You win, yeah.
So I think some companies that I've seen over the past 3 decades, that's been an issue that I face when I'm bringing someone on is, there's a lot of people making promises. I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver. So that's number one, is make sure that they are vested. And how do you make sure of that? Because everybody, like you said, service is the base level. You can't win on service.
Right.
Everybody should have excellent service. And so, find out from the person who's going to mentor you, what is their involvement? I'd like to say, you got my cell number. Call me on. I mean, yeah, I've been doing this 30 years. I'd like to have a Saturday off. But if you're a new agent, and my veteran agents, they don't call me unless we're friends and they're calling me for something else. They don't call me with work related. Same with clients. All my clients have my cell number, but they respect me enough to not, unless they have a car wreck, I want to hear from them, right? Same in training, especially in those early months, maybe even the first year, but certainly the first 3 to 6 months, they're just a little fledgling, they're just trying to fly. And if you can help them get off the ground, then they 2-3 years later, I mean, my agents are mentors to me now, and that's where you want to get them. So I would say that's one very important thing. Second thing is competitiveness. I mean, I've got some agents that come on board and they're like, yeah, this organization's great training, they're vested and all that, but first 10 people I went to write their insurance, I'm double the price. And I'm like, well, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
We sell value and we sell service, but double the price gets hard.
Sure.
So maybe, just maybe, you might be setting yourself up for failure. So, have them prove to you their competitiveness. And if you're going to make a lifelong career change that hopefully will earn you millions of dollars, you certainly could talk to, I think, some of the people that have no skin in the game, maybe 1, 2, 3-year agents. I could tell you about all the success I had, Jason, and all the big shot 7-figure people that I know in my company and all that. But this is you, and this is now, and this is California, and this is COVID. Don't tell me about all the success. That was a different place and a different time, right?
Right.
So tell me, who is succeeding today, and I think that's very important. And I think, for me, the company I joined back in college, they all looked the same. They all had nice offices. They all looked the same. I didn't know the difference. But the first person that gave me an offer, I jumped on it, and a couple of years later, I realized, the commission structure was a third as much as other areas, and I was out producing people top in the state, and wasn't even close to breaking 6 figures. And I just said, it's great training, great people. They were vested in my success, and they were somewhat competitive. But the last thing is make sure it's the right vehicle for you. And
right.
I didn't know what I didn't know, so I didn't know enough at that time. But I come to find out that, hey, I'm pretty good at this. I might want to figure out a way to get compensated worth my talents. And so, yeah, I think those are the key things. But no, if you're out there in your military and you want a career change, you come see me. I'm going to answer that call because, we're dedicated. We drive forward, and, we don't accept no. And we're always going to accomplish the mission. So military people tend to do well, I think, in sales. They maybe don't know that, but they've got skill set for that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think one thing I've seen in my industry with military people is, they're good at following instruction or following orders, right? So if there's good mentorship and good coaching,
That's right.
then that military person can succeed. It's a different story if there isn't, but if that's present, most everyone I've seen with a military past has done well in a sales role, provided they had that training and that mentorship.
Yeah, right? And it's so terrible when they have a bad experience because they could have been great, and picking the wrong vehicle or having the wrong mentorship or not being even remotely competitive. Yeah, it's a shame. I see that happening a lot. Well, I did that 10 years ago, and this is the experience. And I'm like, it's a shame because you've got the talent, you've got the skills.
Yeah, like anything, it takes hard work, right? It's not easy.
Yeah.
But once you build, I think one of the attractive things about the insurance world is you have the renewal. So you have You're like billing an annuity almost, right, for yourself.
And the other
over
thing
time.
is being there during the worst times in people's lives. You know, I did this in the beginning for a job to pay my bills.
Right.
But my first death claim, and, you know, I'm hugging this lady's neck, and she looked in my eyes like a deer in headlights. And, you know, I get emotional when I think about it because, you know, I just said, your husband's a hero. He took care of you guys. And when you're ready, you give me a call. And 2 weeks later, she called me. I mean, he had millions of dollars in life insurance, and he wouldn't have had that, I think, if he wouldn't have trusted me. He was from Minnesota, I think, and he moved in, and I was introduced to him. And one of the few clients at that time that just said, Mark, look at everything I got, like everything. And he trusted me, and you know, 6 months later, he died of cancer. And you know, and then Katrina, you know, and people losing their houses out here to fire.
Yeah.
Car wrecks, lawsuits. I mean, I've seen it all. And being there during people's worst moments, I mean, I can't replace, you know, Randy I for that family. But I can do one thing that almost the doctor, the lawyer, the CPA, no one can do. Not even really family members for the most part, which is help them financially pick up the pieces. And so I hate to use the word passion. I think it's maybe overused, but that's when I realized that I really love this business because, you know, to be there and to help them do that in their worst time. I was there when my loan officer from Louisiana, one of my, I mean, referred me more business than I can count. And I beat him to his house when it was burning down. And
wow.
they pulled up crying, and I just said, hey, you're going to find out what a fine company you have. And, you know, car claims are easy. It's a book. We all use the same book, right?
Right.
You know, sometimes it's great, sometimes not so great, takes time, whatever. But home claims are a different animal. You want a good representative when you're walking through a home claim. You know, my neighbors here in California, which come over to my house in Christmas, you know, that close. And they lost a home up in Washington, which I had a buddy of mine insure up there, but I took over the claims process. And she just cried at the end of it and said, my neighbors aren't faring so well. You walked us through every step of that. It's a lot of moving parts when you get into a home claim. And right now in California, everyone's underinsured. I can tell you because I'm building a house and building a Big Bear cabin. And you know, I look at we usually go up every year 5% for inflation guard.
Right.
I would, unless you've just recently insured your home, most people are grossly underinsured because it would be a custom rebuild if your home went up. It's not like 500 homes and the contractor purchasing and plans and all that. It's unbelievable, the steps and the processes. So, yes, I insure homes, and we're doing our best to let clients know we need to bump those coverages up. And most people are receptive to that. In this day and time, a few years back, not so much. But now they realize, yeah, you're right. And so, but I would say 98, 99% of people in this state are grossly underinsured.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. It's interesting that you brought that up as a point because, you know, I think as we watch kind of the inflationary state of our country right now, and I don't mean just like gas prices and stuff, but the cost of everything is higher, right? Home prices are higher. Labor to build homes are higher.
Now interest rates are higher, Dave.
Interest rates, I know, right? Interest rates are higher. Lumber's high. Like all this stuff is more expensive. So it would make sense that like your home insurance policy from 5 years ago probably isn't up to snuff from a numbers standpoint that you need if you had a catastrophe tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to be at a minimum. I don't care what you have, $250 to $300 a square minimum. And so the nicer homes, which I used to insure for $600-700 a square foot, are going for $1,200-1,400 when we have full third-party inspections done on them before we write them. So it's a problem. Just praying that we don't have any major fire issues in the near future.
Yeah.
So till some of this comes back, hopefully a little bit to normal, like a $2-3 2x4s, $12.
I know
it's a lot of 2x4s you got to buy. That's
is.
just one of the things, and the bids are double from every contractor, and the permits, you know how that is. But yeah,
it's expensive. That's a really good point. What do you see in the industry right now? I mean, you guys get a lot of probably call-ins and referrals for like home policies, people buying a house or maybe doing a refinance or something. What is something that you're noticing, just kind of in the marketplace? Are you noticing anything particular from the market or the clients, or what are you seeing that's happening?
Well, that's a great question. There's a lot of people going direct. I think like any industry, being your own financial advisor, on, I don't want to mention names, but websites where you can do that. Purchasing a loan online, to buying a home without representation, same in insurance. So I've heard a statistic that 30+% of Californians now don't even have agents. And you might be able to save money and have an agent at the same time, because you think you're, getting a deal, and you might not be, right? There's that. But more importantly, when it comes to protecting everything you love the most, well, that'd be your family. And that's true too in life insurance. Or maybe every asset that you have, your home being one of those greatest assets, your income. Liability is important, making sure it's properly covered, making sure you understand the nuances. I think it's very important to have a professional loan officer, no doubt. And, in my earlier years, and maybe there's that generation between 20 and 30 where that statistic is much higher. Sure. But I think I tried to do a lot of things myself. Tried to roof my own house, tried to do this, tried to do that. And I've learned, and I'm sorry, you may not learn this till you're 40 or 50 or so, but I've just learned that sometimes the cheapest route costs you more. And so if you want to save $10 a month on your insurance, that might be what you get when you go to pay a claim, because, it's worthless. It's a piece of paper until you need it.
That's true.
And then if you need somebody to walk you through that, but you're not necessarily going to pay more. And these companies that came out, like I'm again not going to mention the name, but I remember in Louisiana, the first online company hit. And agents wanted to quit. They're like, we can't compete with an online company. They're 20% lower than us. And, the problem is they are all things to all people. So it's like a swimming pool.
Right.
If you're dirty and you get in the swimming pool, you dirty it for everybody else, right? Insurance is a pool of people. And that company was trying to do everything for everybody. And eventually they're 20% higher than us, and life, was still good. So it's not necessarily always the cheapest route to go that way. In fact, I think more times than not, if you don't have a professional at some degree, I mean, it's okay to buy crypto and do your own thing and, do these things, but, especially life insurance, such a complicated business insurance, they're starting to do that online now for the first time ever. Complicated. You want to make sure that stuff's right when you need it.
Yeah. There's just a lot at risk.
It is.
If you just do the point and click and I'm done, I got it. I mean
how many things do you know on a loan that you can help?
Tons.
Yeah.
Oh, tons of stuff. Yeah. I mean, yeah, your point is so valid, because, we get that conversation a lot, like, oh, can you beat this online interest rate that I just got? And it's like, well, let's peel back the layers of that onion a little bit and really uncover what you're getting quoted on, and make sure that you're even talking about the same thing.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, that having that professional behind you is so critical. And on the stuff that you're talking about, like you're financing a business or, life insurance policies and things like that. Like, yeah, it might be one thing on like a basic auto policy, maybe, but everything else is they're so intricate and detailed, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah. And a majority of the people, well, not a majority, I'd say a lot, too many that I meet has their insurance scattered. They don't have someone they trust and know. So they may have their auto insurance here and their life insurance here and maybe home insurance over here, and then they've got their boat over here or whatever. There's one recommendation I can make is pick somebody and trust them, let them teach you, put it all together. Not only for discounts, we all know you get, bundling discounts or whatever, but really for the comprehensive coverage, to have an umbrella that goes over all that, or making sure there's no gaps or even overlaps. If it's $1 a month, Jason, I'm going to tell you where that overlap is, because I don't want to pay an extra $1 a month that I don't need. Sure. And so when you have it all, that at this point in my career, of course, I don't write much business. I still have a little bit of a client base, just, my best friends that won't let me leave, and I won't let them leave. Most of my agents service people that I know, and I just think that it's just something that is very important to trust someone, put everything together, let them advise you. Chances are you're going to save money, and you're going to have someone there that's accountable when you need help. Like I said, in a home claims, when it's really time for that agent to step up and earn their pay.
Yeah, because there's just a lot. I mean, I haven't
Or a
had
death claim.
Yeah, I
Even
mean,
more
I
important.
haven't had to go through either of those, but just hearing you explain it, there's a lot of steps that need to happen, and I think more so beyond like the steps that need to take place in one of those claims is, the emotional state of the people, right? And I think we all can rationalize it. Like, if we're super emotionally charged, whether we're sad or we're upset or whatever, it's hard to think clearly and think logically. And you have one of these big events happen, your house burns down or somebody passes away. Like, you're not going to be in the right headspace to then like compartmentalize and be like, oh, okay, that bad thing happened. Now let me go through my policy documents and figure out exactly step 1 through 12.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not the reality.
Well, when I was told I was going to war at 18, being shipped from basic to war, I cried a little bit. My state was emotional, to say the least. And, the next day or a few days later, they were assigning orders. And everyone that thought they were going to Germany or here or Hawaii or wherever, Woods, Iraq, so-and-so, Iraq, Marlboro, Iraq, Milotello, Monroe. I was like, I just kind of slid back in my seat and didn't say anything. But my state changed immediately. You're right. In a situation, and the reason why is my unit was full. And if someone got killed, I would fill that gap. Of course, the Gulf War wasn't that long.
Right.
So it was kind of over for the most part by the time I got back home. But, it's emotion, it drives you. And, we had a neighbor that had a major water claim upstairs.
I remember hearing about that.
I just went over, of course, block 2 houses down. I just went over. I said, I'll walk you through every step. It's going to be okay. And so, when people in some of their worst moments, or that, of course, isn't a disaster, but I just let them know that we're going to, I'm going to advise you through this. I'm going to tell you what to do, when to push, and when to give in. Don't say the word lawyer until you're ready, because that shuts me out of it, shuts them, and, I think you just having an agent that's willing to fall on the sword and make some hard calls on your behalf is a good thing too.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right. You got to have that professional, right? There's the online stuff feels like it's easy and better, I think, for a lot of people, because we're so conditioned to go online for everything now, right? Even interacting with our friends. So it's easy to fall into that trap. But that professional advisement and having that pro, I mean, I tell people this, when they're trying to buy a house online or sell it without an agent or something like that, how many times a month are you buying or selling a house? Well, nobody's doing it every month, right? But a real estate agent is.
Yeah.
Or a lender's doing a loan every month, or, right? So you're out of shape. You're not practiced at that. It's not that you're not capable or intelligent enough, but you're out of shape.
Yeah.
You don't do it every day. It's like going to work out, right? Can you go get on the treadmill? Sure. You can figure out the buttons, but are you going to be sore the next couple of days if you try 10 miles? Yeah. Unless you're always working up to that 10 miles.
I wish
on a
I
daily
worked
basis.
out like you. See this guy in the gym? Oh man. I'm like, I need to step up my game.
But but yeah, you're totally right on that. One of the things I was thinking about was, as we're talking about insurance and that whole financial services kind of industry, what's something that you see people kind of overlook from an insurance perspective? Things that they just maybe doesn't get presented to them. They just never think about it. I mean, everyone thinks, you got to have an auto policy and a home policy. I mean, that's kind of the nuts and bolts, right? But, is it umbrella policies? Is it an earthquake? Is there stuff that people just kind of just doesn't even enter their mind?
I think a lot of that is pretty known. I would say number one, without question, is life insurance. Number one. I mean, I haven't come across a policy that I couldn't at least advise you where you are to better it, and which means I could not replace it, or move it into a more modern policy with all the new features that modern policies have, or you didn't have the right coverage, or you didn't have the right type of coverage. And so I would say that's there's maybe been one time in the last 14 years I've been in California, I've come across someone, I said, yep, you're good. Can't help you there. And so there's just so much, and it's not about me selling them anything. I'm to a point in my career, I don't need to, make a sale anymore, which is kind of nice sometimes.
Sure.
I'm just here to help. And so I think that's the biggest area where, from one of the wealthiest individuals I've met here, to a new family buying their first house right out of college, starting out, they need to at least understand what their goals and their philosophies are in regard to the products that are available. There was, I think, one of the, I don't even want to give an example of who she was, but very successful person here, very successful, one of the top in the country type of success, driving around with 100,000 limits on her car, and I mean, most people have that part covered. They understand that. But just the real estate she needed millions and millions and millions of umbrella and those type coverage. So you come across that every now and then, but I haven't met a person where I've looked at their life insurance or disability, and been able to educate them in a way. Again, regardless of whether they buy from me, I want them to understand what they're paying for, because I'm at 50 now. I redid all my life insurance at around 44. That's probably the best way before, if you think 30 years out, 74, my high school mates probably start dropping, maybe me, statistically, right?
Right. No, you're right.
So once you hit past that stage, as well as age 50, the price exponentially goes up. So I now that doesn't mean a 50, 60-year-old. My father passed away 7 years ago. He was a life insurance broker. He sold himself a 10-year term to cover some real estate he bought, and he passed away, and it paid off. So the best policy, doesn't matter what kind of policy, the best policy is the one in force when you have it. I think that's one of the biggest areas. I think that I just can't remember a time where I couldn't help educate them either regarding what they have or a better way.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
On life insurance, tell us, you hear that term, and I know life insurance is just kind of like the top layer, right? And it breaks down. There's different types,
right?
And there's different pieces and things you can do with it. Share with our audience, just kind of break down life insurance a little bit.
Just so you know, my book, it's really cool how I built a lot of websites. So as you're reading the book, it says, don't listen to me, go listen to this guy. So it links out to, and then I built cool. 3 sites that have all kind of free training. So you said, you want to learn this? Go listen to it, learn. It's free training out there. But one of the training videos that I provide for free is, there's thousands and thousands, 4,000 or 5,000 companies out there offering life insurance.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of different products and the way they're designed and how they work and the contract and things like that. But there's 2 main types. There's permanent, lifelong, built to last a lifetime, whether they do or not, and temporary, term, renting versus buying. Most people want to buy a house. I want to buy a house. Is it the cheapest? Well, in California, you can make money on real estate. Louisiana, if you could sell your house 20 years later for what you bought it, you'd be happy. Of course, that's changed too now with the way things have gone. But me growing up, that's kind of how it was. But you don't think of all the hidden cost in owning a house, right? You don't think of the taxes as a cost. You don't think of, but it's ownership. They can't take it away from you. If you pay off that house, you can make loans against it. You can sell it, and the same thing in permanent. So yeah, in term, again, is renting an apartment, but there's a reason to rent. If I want, 10,000 square foot, I probably can't buy that, in a house. So I might need to rent 8,000 of that square foot and buy the 2,000. And so I believe a blend more times than not is the right fit of those two. But I don't push that on people. I think, hey, it's your philosophy, your goals. Let me educate you, and you make the decision. Let me teach you about a couple things. There's 2 main types, and there's a lot of variations of that. And as far as which one's right, I wouldn't even begin to say that because I don't know your goals and your needs and your wishes and your wants and your, future. But there's been a lot of black eyes, a lot of negativity. I don't want to mention the names, but a couple right off the top of your tongue that have been very much against permanent life insurance, but that was then and this is now. There's a lot of neat things that they can do that even other investments I own don't do. And for the right reasons, structured properly, managed properly, there's some pretty cool things that they do. And it's not everything to me. I don't do everything in that, where some life insurance agents may say, you need to stop all that and do this. No. I don't do that. I do that. I have my foundation, and I, all the way up to crypto, right?
Right.
And it should just be a well-balanced part of anyone's portfolio if designed and structured properly. So yeah, I mean, that's a hard question, but that's probably the best answer I can give is just get with somebody that knows and cares.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, there's you hear so much noise about it, right? A lot of advertising for life insurance, and the water's muddy, right? So it's good to have someone that can,
and you're paying the same price with those online companies that you're getting from an agent, by the way. Those are the same companies with the same pricing. They can't have different pricing than the brokers or the insurance agents are selling. Like American National, like my company, they have a brokerage division. My father sold American National. I'm on the captive side, so I basically only sell auto, home. I have the P&C products because of that. But they're one of the nation's oldest, largest, and most trusted. Blah 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 blah. As good as any other company, or maybe better. But that's my opinion. But you're getting the same price. You don't feel that when you're clicking a button and thinking and again, there may be some negative connotation of dealing with a life insurance agent because a lot of them have been taught to push a product.
Good point.
And I can mention some names, but I won't. They train you to present a certain product as the best product, the all be all. It's not.
It's the best product for them.
That's maybe the only product they have.
Right.
Right? I mean, I hate to use the word product agnostic, but insurance agents should be that way. They should find the goals and needs of a client and educate the client, let the client choose what meets their philosophy, their budget. That's kind of important.
Sure.
And their goals.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get into training you, man, but you asked. We can
it's
train
good.
all day.
It's good. I love it. I mean, the more education, the better, right? I mean, I think it's good for our audience to hear, some of that, like kind of getting down into the weeds a little bit, because there's just a lot underneath that canopy of insurance, and then life insurance. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot happening there. There's a lot to learn.
I don't know loans, so I trust you.
Yeah.
I don't want to know everything that's under your canopy.
Yeah.
I don't have time.
Exactly. And the average person doesn't have time to learn my stuff or your stuff, right?
Right.
So that's why they need us.
Yeah. I was wanting to mention to your viewers, some of the cool things we just released.
Yeah.
Which is our digital business card. I wish they could see it on camera, but it's my little face on my client's card, on my client's phone, and they can press my face, and it's like an app, but it's a link to a website. So we call it the digital business card. So every real estate agent that you have out there, it's not free, but it's complimentary. We use the word free. They're like, nothing's for free. Yes, it's complimentary. We pay for it. We give it to you to say thank you. And so any of your viewers that want, I don't know, I don't even want to begin to say if I was a real estate agent, but I might want my text codes all over town for people driving by. So we give a free text code to any of your viewers that are real estate agents too. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, if it's automatic and it's free, why not if you got a listing, why not try to grab all those leads of people interested? If they come by and grab a flyer or call someone else to go see the house, you lost a lead. So there's several more features, but those are the really cool ones. I love the digital business card because every time, let's say a real estate agent gives it to all their clients. So they have 1,000 clients. They give it to their clients. Every time that card's shared from their clients to someone else, they're notified. Really cool stuff.
That's cool.
That's complimentary to all your viewers if they'll reach out to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. And it's great, especially, in the sales world, because that referral business is what you want, right? That's what we're all striving to develop, a great referral-based business that our clients and our friends and our family refer us, right? So oftentimes I hear, oh, yeah, well, I told so-and-so about you.
Yeah.
You're like,
opportunity missed.
Yep, great, because they never called.
And they don't want to give you their name anyway.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you their name and phone number. But if they shared the digital business card, oh, yeah, I saw your brother. He downloaded that. Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
I want every client of mine to have it, and I want them to use it. They can press a button and call me or text me in a click. You can even you can customize the links, anything you want to link out to anywhere. It's really cool.
That is cool. What else does the software do for the realtors?
Well, it builds a single property website. My sister's a big shot real estate agent in Florida. She's like, I got a website. I pay a lot of money. I do Facebook. I do all that. why do I need your website? I said, well, I just went to your website. Did you know? She goes, no. I said, you didn't collect the lead, did you? She goes, no, you got to pick up the phone and call me. I said, exactly. So I might be looking at your property. Everything I built has got lead capture technology. So if someone and again, it's like a lottery ticket. You want 1 or you want 5, Jason?
I want 5.
Okay, let me give you 4. Keep doing what you're doing, but let me give you some other lottery tickets to help, maybe make you feel like you got better odds, better chances. So with her, I said, look, if we have a single property site, A, you didn't pay for it. You didn't do anything for it. We built it for you, and we launched it on your behalf. It's a sharp, great, modern-looking site. But when someone clicks on it, they have to opt in to being contacted to view the whole site. So off of that, we build 4 other digital marketing features. One is an open house application. So when I moved here, I went into 4 open houses. One person called me back. The other one took my name on a big yellow legal pad, never called me back. The others had 3 or 4 families in there and never even met me. Again, put an iPad or some kind of pad by the front door, open up that open house app, same as the text code. As soon as they enter, hey, this is Mark, here's my cell number. You can go up to that person. If you're a realtor that might be concerned about your safety, I can go up and say, Jason, do you have that link on your site? Let me see it. You have the link to the house? So you can tell whether or not they entered the correct phone number. So we like to call it a little bit of a safety application.
That's really cool.
So I might get concerned if you put a bogus number in there. I'm sorry, you got to enter correct information, or you need to call for help or something. But anyway, aside from that, it's an open house app, which again collects the lead and texts and emails you a copy of that person that walked in if you get too busy. Plus, the consumer gets what they want, which is the website on their phone, right?
Yeah.
And so that you've got a Facebook auto poster. So, but again, the Facebook links are opt-in lead generation links. So they see a picture of the house, they want to see the house, but when they click on the link, it's to see the house. It then pops up a opt-in feature there. And then the text codes, the free text codes that link that website to that property. So if I had a sign out in the yard, I think about the small town of Monroe, but it works here in San Diego too. I'd want my text code all over town, right? I don't know. I just don't. I saw a text code when I left our community to that restaurant, and I called the guy, and I said, "You're the only person I see using text codes. You're awesome." And he goes, "You want the property?" I said, "No, I just want to tell you you're awesome." It's so smart, right? And text codes that link, the client gets the website as soon as they click the text code, but you get the lead. And then the digital business card, which everybody loves.
Yeah.
We got some other things coming out, but I won't go there.
Well, it's great that you have all that stuff and it's all lead capture, right? Because in sales,
by leads.
More leads solves all problems. Right?
One real estate agent said, I'm too big, I'm too busy. I said, don't you get a referral fee if you're like, can't you dictate your? Yeah. I said 25%. If you gave me a lead and I gave you 20, well, use your listings to collect the leads and hand them to a younger younger in the business real estate agent. Oh, that makes sense. You're right. Okay, I'll do it.
There you go.
Because I'm not going to chase cold call leads. I'm not going to chase hardly any leads. I'm just working strictly by referrals, right?
Right.
I'm in a stage in my business, but that wasn't me 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Right. And that new person coming up in real estate, they're calling every lead they can get their hands on.
I'll be calling the subprime insurance leads.
Yeah. Exactly, right? But yeah, that's a great solution because, I can imagine that's going to be a rebuttal people are going to hear all the time. Oh, I'm so busy.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you too busy for money?
Yeah.
No, I like that.
But here's the key. I don't want anything else on my plate, and neither do they. So it's fully automated. All they got to do is load their profile, and we do the rest. So
that's really cool.
Cheap, free, I think is as cheap as you can get. Automated, very important. And it just works on their behalf, and cool and slick, so I accomplished and lead technology.
Yeah. No, that's a home run.
Yeah.
That's really great. Well, Mark, thanks so much for coming down today and spending some time. I know you're busy and kicking butt out there in the insurance world. And for anybody who maybe missed some of that, if you want the digital business card, reach out to me. We'll get you set up with it. It's really cool, customizable. So we appreciate it, man. Thanks for dropping all the knowledge.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode. Please subscribe, click the link below, share with your friends. And hey, if you know a military person or a veteran with a great story to share, we would love to highlight them on the podcast and get their story out to everybody. Thanks so much.